Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellbite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. We're back at it with the Champ Design breakdown videos here today talking about Caitlyn. I'm really excited for her as her ASU is coming out before too long. She looks absolutely stunning in her new appearance. If you guys haven't seen it, I will have the video linked in the description. It is the Caitlyn Champion theme. They reveal all of her splash arts following the ASU in that update. No word yet as to whether or not they're going to be particle changes, but either way, really excited just to see the new appearance of one of the older champions in League of Legends. And speaking of older champions in League of Legends, Caitlyn is there, but I think her kit still manages to have quite a good amount of style behind it and quite a good play pattern. Despite the fact that it is older, a lot of times older champion kits can have mechanics or abilities that don't leave themselves with an awful lot of ability to play around them, right? Like this champion has a button that just makes them strong for a period of time, and there's no way you can really outplay it other than bait them into using it and then walk away until the buff wears off, right? Or targeted abilities that basically say, you can't step up as long as I have this cooldown because there's no way for you to outplay it, right? Like if Annie has stun charged and she has a targeted damaging ability that can apply the stun, you can't step up without the threat of being stunned, right? There's no possible way for you to outplay that ability. So in that regard, right, you have to be kind of careful. And in that regard, these older champions can tend to be very controlling, and they can tend to be a lot more strategic, I would think, versus tactical. The difference here, of course, is that strategy is sort of the long term, right? Being able to look at this champion over a long period of time and saying, you know, when are they strong? When are they weak? How can I play this lane in such a way in order to always be able to fight when they are at their weakest and fight when I am at my strongest? Versus tactical, which is a lot more of that sort of outplay mindset that a lot of newer champions have, where all of their abilities, or almost all their abilities, are skill shots or otherwise have enough counterplay to them that in any given scenario, even if they have their entire kit available, there is the possibility for them to miss or for you to dodge and for everything to then go your way from there. But also then you have that sort of mindset as well if you're also playing a newer champion, right? And so in that regard, Caitlyn, it sort of strikes, I think, a good balance between the two. To a certain extent, Caitlyn does still have that degree of control and that degree of I am strong now, but a lot of it is done in a way that I think works very well, especially given that Caitlyn has a lot of this is because of how the traps work, right? Caitlyn sets the traps, and then you kind of have to play around that. Now, you can eat the headshot if you want to, right? If that's something that you're, like, totally fine with opting into. But also, there is still the zone control, and there is still a punish for, you know, stepping on the trap. Not only is there the route to then have follow-up CC come through, but on top of that, just the ability for Caitlyn to do a big burst of damage to you from far beyond your range to retaliate, I think is the biggest thing. Caitlyn doesn't have to be right next to you. She just has to be generally in the area, and as long as you step on a trap, she's able to follow that up with a headshot, which I think is a good way of Caitlyn maintaining this sort of lane control and this sort of strategic control in a way that then also doesn't make it feel bad to play against, because you can see the traps, you know what they do, you know they're there, and the question is basically, can you get around the traps? Can you wait out the traps? Do you eat a trap if you're the support for your AD carry to then be able to step up? There is decisions to be made with regards to how this plays out, right? Which I do quite like. The other thing about Caitlyn is that a lot of her abilities from here are skill shots and do have sort of multiple use cases, which I do quite like. That is sort of a newer champion thing, I would say, especially 90 caliber net, where that is a very powerful defensive tool because it not only damages and slows the person who's trying to chase you down, but it also knocks her back. But there also is the use case of using it just for movement, right? Being able to net yourself forwards in order to get off another auto attack or use a Q or what have you. There's also the ability to buffer the Q, obviously, in the middle of the E animation, which does add a little bit of flair to Caitlyn's playstyle and does allow her to stand out as sort of a skillful Caitlyn versus a non-skillful Caitlyn who isn't able to properly buffer that. So that's kind of nice. And Piltover Peacemaker, I think, is in a similar fashion, where especially I like that this ability doesn't have the expanded area of effect until it hits a unit, which then gives Caitlyn some degree of decision-making because of the fall-off damage inherent on this ability, right? Caitlyn has to be able to say, you know, okay, this is going to do less damage if it hits more targets, but also I get a bigger area of effect if it hits more targets. So is this worth it to me overall for Caitlyn, you know, to be able to say, do I want to hit a target for the boosted AoE, or do I care that much? Is this something that I really am just kind of like, yeah, that's all right, I just want to go for the shot so I don't end up having that fall-off damage? That I think is another thing that really makes the ability interesting in a place where it didn't really necessarily have to be. The other thing I do like about Caitlyn is that all of her abilities are very deliberate. you don't really want to be spamming with Caitlyn, especially given that using a Piltover Peacemaker in the middle of a fight is oftentimes a DPS drop for Caitlyn. Caitlyn is the kind of champion that really reinforces just straight up auto attacking as her primary source of damage. That's pretty much all she ever wants to do, and the only reasons to go for the Peacemaker is if the target is starting to get out of your range, or if you want to be able to damage multiple targets at the same time in order to, you know, put damage pressure on multiple units. In that regard, again, it's very deliberate. It's the kind of thing you have to be thinking about consciously and not just kind of throwing abilities out, which is sort of a symptom of an older champion, right? Newer champions, for the most part, don't have that. They're almost sort of rewarded for just throwing skill shots out, you know, willy-nilly and hoping that one of them hits in order to then follow up on. And Caitlyn very much so has to think very carefully about when and where she uses all of her abilities. If she's caught without trap charges, with net on cooldown, and goes for random Piltover Peacemakers, which force her to stand in place and are ultimately a DPS drop due to the way headshot works and giving her constant bursts of consistent damage, she's not going to have a good time. And this is similar in regards to Ace in the Hole as well. I do think Ace in the Hole is a little interesting as an ability. Again, it kind of splits that gap very well between old and new design philosophies, in that it is a targeted ability, right? Caitlyn presses R on you, and there is nothing you can do about that except for the fact that it can be body blocked. And that then means that there is a good amount of counterplay to this ability, because Caitlyn can't just go for an Ace in the Hole on whatever target she sees for guaranteed damage. That damage is never going to be guaranteed. She has to be concerned about when and where she decides to set up for this fairly lengthy channel, especially knowing that this channel has the ability to be body blocked by somebody. So in that regard, again, it's consistent, right, which keeps it in sort of that older character mindset, right? If you get poked low and you're all by yourself and Caitlyn channels are on you, you're just dead. But also there's enough there that it still feels fair to play against. You sort of know that, okay, yeah, I got myself poked low, there's no one to body block, I'm taking this Ace in the Hole, and I'm probably going to die from it. And it's for Caitlyn as well, it's the kind of ability she has to think about using. So there's never a situation where she's just like, yeah, it's targeted damage, it's free, whatever. It's very much so the kind of thing she has to consider. So overall, I really like Caitlyn's kit. I think that Riot did a really good job of designing her initially, and I think the biggest thing for me, though, was the rework she got a while back, giving her the sort of extra punish with regards to champions stepping on her traps or taking the net. That means that Caitlyn is sort of slightly more rewarded for champions trying to step into her zone and giving her the option of actually punishing these champions from outside their range to retaliate when they try to go for these kinds of plays. It makes her the kind of champion that can really shut down the opposition, and it also means that champions have the ability of kind of stepping away from Caitlyn. She doesn't have a lot of agency on her own to make plays happen, but if you try to make a play happen on her, she's able to punish you for that quite effectively, which gives her a good niche as sort of the zone control AD carry that we don't really have. We have some other marksmen that have sorts of controlling playstyles, but no one that does it as well as Caitlyn does, which I really, really like. So super well-designed kit. I think she was definitely a good candidate for an ASU because of this, and she is going to look very, very good following this ASU, which, again, I encourage you guys to check out the link if you haven't already, because it is awesome seeing her new appearance. But let me know what you guys think of Caitlyn's design down in the comments section below. Again, let me know what you think of this video series down in the comments as well. I'm still kind of getting some feedback as to what you guys think about it, so let me know all that down in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video today, go ahead and leave it a like, and if you really enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days as well. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I'll talk to you all later.